Alright, so here's what I think is the best 318 starter build. This is not geared towards a particular league. You can pull these off in any league with some stipulations, but I'll mention those if they pop up. So a lot, like, this is going to be based on my opinion, and a lot of people would rank things differently, but I think this will be a good list, especially for people who are not like super comfortable with the game. Like a lot of people say, like, why are you? Well, I'll show you. Like, here's my S tier. Is like, why are you why are you putting Ignite, Detonate, Dead Necromancer in S tier if it's for every league, right? Like, typically, in my opinion, you're probably only going to want to start that build if you're in SFHC or Hardcore Trade, but I think a lot of new players, when they play, they pick builds that are too hard to gear or too complicated for like a new player. Like, there's a lot of things you have to keep track of, or something you could easily miss, or blah blah blah. With builds that are typically SFHC, I find them to be like really a lot harder to mess up, and you won't be dying every 2 seconds. With a lot of builds, like, I feel like if you look up a random software trade build and you're a new player, you're gonna like be either really lacking on damage or survivability or something. With these builds, it's pretty hard to go wrong that way, even if you're a new player and don't have a ton of knowledge. So yes, they're typically hardcore builds, but they're still more than usable in softcore trade, especially when you're not going to be min-maxing your currency and everything and doing like a super advanced strategy where you're going to be playing a 2k life build, doing 1 billion damage just to farm bosses, which is not the reality for most players. I think things like this are a good recommendation. So in the S tier, I think the best build you can start in any league is Poison Seismic Trap Saboteur. Its damage is just like really good. It starts getting really good really fast. Has 7 out of 10 survivability. It's pretty typical. Survivability, you have grace, you have determination. With Ghost Shrouds, that's a really solid defense. You really don't need much more than that in the game. That is more than good enough to do at all content. But you cannot play like a complete potato on that. You will die sometimes if you only have that as your defense. You do have to be a kind of skilled player for that, but you're not hardcore, that's not a big deal. So die every, like, I don't know. You will not die often. You just can't like tank too much. Like, you're not gonna tank 12 shaper balls to the face. 7 out of 10 map clear. It's it's like a normal map clear. Pretty average, I guess. You just throw your trap down. If you need to clear a really tanky rare mob, you throw your seismic trap down or exsanguinate trap for just trash packs. Usual. 9 out of 10 bossing, because you do so much damage, though you do. You still really, I don't want to say you're lacking on the survivability, because you're really not. It is a really tanky build, but when you compare it to some other builds, it's like not incredible. So especially with the new Uber bosses, like, you're gonna probably have to have good mechanics to not die to them. So 9 out of 10 bossing. 9 out of 10 gear farmability. It's all pretty easy stuff to get. Life, suppression gear, poison dagger, or you can just like get a cold iron point if you manage to drop one of those. I feel like they've been pretty common last few leagues. But yeah, nothing like is really hard to get. Number 2 build, I'd say, is Ignite, Detonate, Dead Necromancer. It has 5 out of 10 damage. Like, I could maybe rate it a little bit higher, but the damage sometimes really does feel lacking. So I have a 5 out of 10. That's like still more than enough to clear the game. There's plenty of damage, but when you compare it to something like Seismic Trap, it really, I don't know, it feels lacking. But it makes up for it for survivability. Has basically really good survivability, like tankiest build I can think of, especially when you get all the gear set up for it. It's 11 out of 10 survivability. It really scales it really hard. You have max spell suppression. You have nearly max block. You can get max block, but that's kind of hard, and you'd be better off focusing on other things. But get max block, you can get the life on recovery shield or life on block shield, which really skyrockets your tank ability. You can get like lots of max res on your gear or on your shield. You can pump out a few max res. It gets really tanky really fast. Ton of armor, Vol Molten Shell, some other stuff I can't really think of off the top of my head because I'm thinking of like 30 builds here. But same thing as Seismic Trap, Saboteur, 7 out of 10 map clear. But it is a 2-button build, so if you don't like that, you'd probably rate that a little bit lower for yourself. But it's fine for me, and if you don't mind 2-button builds, it's fine. 8 out of 10 bossing. I rate a little bit lower than Poison Seismic Trap because the damage does really feel lacking sometimes. And it can take quite a while to get a good scepter. Crafting a good fire scepter is pretty difficult. 10 out of 10 gear farmability. All of the gear is really easy. It's like, with the weapon, it is really easy to get a mediocre weapon, but getting a really good weapon can be kind of hard. But getting a decent weapon is really easy. You just slap an Essence of Fear on it. There you go. You have a pretty decent weapon. S- tier. Explosive Arrow, Ballista Champion. Or you can go Elementalist for softcore. If you do want to get more damage. Alright, 8 out of 10 damage. It gets pretty good damage. And eventually with gear, you can get really high damage, like I think like 10 million or something, if you land all your fuses, which I don't know how feasible that is. I don't know how often you actually will have max explosive arrows on the enemy, so I haven't played the build yet. I'm gonna do a test run, but yeah. 10 out of 10 survivability. It's a champion. You will have lots of armor, lots of evasion. Its survivability is there. I think you'll get like probably 7k life realistically. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I have it rated for 3 out of 10 map clear. Now some of you may be like, okay, sounds right. But some of you may be like, what? It could be way better. Well, totems suck. Totems suck. I hate totems. So if you don't mind totems, you could probably rate your map clear on that a little bit higher for yourself, but I don't like totems. So 9 out of 10 bossing. It's a nice build. You can throw your ballistas down and you can like run around and shit. And let it do its thing. It's good bossing, good survivability. Really good bosser. 7 out of 10 gear farmability. Because you're gonna need to get spell suppression on all your gear. And you won't have a shield to help cap that, which is really helpful. And you'll probably have to farm div cards in a map to get a 6-link bow or something. And yeah, I'm not like super in tune with the gear you need for this build, so give or take a point. Impale Spectral Helix Champion. So this build is basically, I'd only play it to get an easy Omni respec. Thinking about it, you could probably play EA Ballista, and by the time you get all your stuff for Omni, you could probably have enough regrets to respec anyway, so probably play that over Impale Spectral Helix, but still an okay build. 4 to 10 damage, it's pretty bad. Well, on some things it's really good. On some other bosses, it's really bad. All depends on how many times your helix will hit. Some bosses, it won't get hit because they're small. So, could be kind of scuffed sometimes. Other bosses, you'll do a ton of damage. 10 out of 10 survivability, extremely tanky. Yeah, it's champion. 4 out of 10 map clear. Its map clear is not that good. Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but I know a lot of people really hate helix. But a lot of your map clear will come from the impales, and then using the, I don't know what it's called, but when you rip the impales out and it like clears a pack, basically. That's where your map clear will come from. 6 out of 10 bossing, you're pretty much not going to die. You're pretty much unkillable. But it can take a bit for some boss kills to get better gear. 8 out of 10 gear farmability. Only thing that's probably difficult to get is a really good weapon. And if you want, you can farm the fledgling helmet from Heist, or you can just buy it. But that probably won't be on the market for a few days, so yeah. Then you will respec from that build to Omni, Lightning Strike, or Helix, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're doing Feared, you probably want to use Helix. Unless you get enough damage on your Lightning Strike to just delete all the bosses. If you can get that much damage, then by all means go Lightning Strike. So Omni, Lightning Strike, 10 out of 10 damage. Obviously, it destroys bosses. 9 out of 10 survivability. Pretty much, okay, this build, I kind of want to rate the survivability lower because your HP pool is kind of low on this build because you lose your strength bonus because you have no strength because it all goes to Omni. And your HP pool will probably be like capped out at like 6k or so. I have not seen anybody go higher than 6k. And this leaves you really susceptible to degens, because champion does not have great recovery either. So yeah, watch out for degens. That's pretty much the only thing you're gonna die to. Yeah. 9 out of 10 map clear. It will clear maps really fast, like really fast. But it's not an auto bomber, so it's not gonna be 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10 bossing, you'll delete the bosses, but if there's a bad degen on the boss, be careful. That's the only thing that brings it down a point. 4 to 10 gear farmability. You do need to farm all this gear. It doesn't take that long, but it's a decent hike. So, yeah. And you obviously can't league start it, but you can probably get it going on like day 1 or 2 if you're really fast. Depending if they depending if they nerf Omni drop rate, which I'd say they probably won't since they said no balance changes. And that would be a balance change, but yeah, they could potentially nerf that. If you're softcore, you can also do like Omni Lightning Strike with Berserker or something, or yeah. If you really want to juice the damage, but even if I were to go softcore trade, I think I'd still go champion because you still melt bosses and stuff, and you're gonna like go from 5 out of 10 survivability on Berserker to like 9 out of 10 on champion, so I don't really see why you wouldn't do champion, but your preference. A tier. Blade Blast Occultist. Now, a lot of you might be like, what the? Blade Blast Occultist? I thought Blade Blast was dead. Well, I think a lot of people are sleeping on it. I think it's a really good starter. Especially if you're in Trade League, if you're in SF, maybe I'd go like Bane Occultist, then transfer into Blade Blast when you get some gear for it. I'd look up Gucci Prada's guide for it on YouTube if you're interested in that build. 10 out of 10 damage, it gets really, really good. 5 out of 10 survivability, it's nothing crazy. You do get Grace Termination and Ghost Shrouds, I think, but it is like an active playstyle, so you can't really like run around. You're really gonna have to pay attention, and it will have screen cancer, so that might be a problem on some things. That brings survivability down, in my opinion. 10 out of 10 map clear. You Blade Blast, and then you turn on your Plague Bearer, and you just run through, and everything blows up. 7 out of 10 bossing, for reasons I explained just a second ago. 5 out of 10 gear farm ability. Like, you're going to need mana regen, you're going to need cast speed. Those are the two main things you're going to want to look for. And you will probably want some clusters. So 5 out of 10, it's doable, but I'd recommend going Bane into this. Rage Vortex Berserker. Damage looked really good when Lighty was playing it in Melee League. 5 out of 10 survivability. It will have Determination Grace, I believe, but you are a Berserker. He did take Carnage, so maybe I'd actually put that down a few points, but yeah, 5 out of 10 survivability there. And look decent enough. I mean, he did the feared on it, so it's, it's good enough. But you will probably die sometimes without really good gear. 8 out of 10 map clear. You clear maps with Blade Storm, it looked pretty okay. 8 out of 10 bossing, you have a ton of damage, mediocre survivability, but you can really pump the damage. Especially if you're softcore, you can really pump the damage. 5 out of 10 gear farm ability, getting suppression might be kind of hard, getting good weapon might be kind of hard. Toxic Rain Champion. So 5 out of 10 damage. Probably get like 3 million realistically at league start. It's okay. But before you get really good gear for that, it will be kind of painful. So I can maybe rate that a bit higher, actually. But early on, it will probably be kind of painful. 9 out of 10 survivability, it's a champion, but it is kind of screen cancer and an active playstyle, so 6 out of 10 map clear, you basically just Toxic Rain, you go, but you might have some stragglers, so 6 out of 10, pretty okay. 8 out of 10 bossing, you're really tanky, mediocre damage, 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10 gear farm ability, you'll need to farm the bow, you'll need to farm some essences for the bow, so you get the plus gem level stuff. Maybe some clusters, I don't know. Probably need clusters, actually, so maybe I'd rate that a bit lower. Fire Trap Chieftain. 5 out of 10 damage, you can get like 2 million maybe. Maybe a little bit more if you pump better gear. 10 out of 10 survivability. You get like Melding of Flesh, you have 90 all res, it's really good. You have armor evasion, really good. But here's the downside. Map clear, not so good. It's not good. You're relying on Fire Trap. It ain't too good. I guess you could stick RF in there, but not too good. 7 out of 10 bossing, pretty much you're never going to die, but it might be a little bit slow with the damage. 8 out of 10 gear farm ability, pretty easy stuff to get. Fire Trap plus RF Inquisitor, pretty much the same damage, A little bit less survivability, I think. Just because you're gonna be like... I mean, I guess you could still go melding, but... I'm not as acquainted with these builds, so a lot of this is what I think. Could be wrong. But it'll be somewhere in the ballpark. 7 out of 10 map clear will be better because, you know, you'll be running around with RF and stuff. So it'll be okay. 4 out of 10 bossing, because you have to get close with RF, which is a downside. 8 out of 10 gear farmability. You know, pretty standard gear, maybe to get a glorious vanity. Yep. Boneshatter Slayer. 7 out of 10 damage. Bossing damage, it can be kind of bad, so maybe lower than that. 8 out of 10 survivability. You get the overleech from Slayer. You get Fortify, unless it's in a situation where your Fortify sucks, because Fortify sucks, but usually pretty good survivability. Get a pretty good map. I mean, pretty good life pool. You'll be stunning everything. It's a stun build. Yep. 8 out of 10 map clear. Map clear is really good. You go in, you pop the pop packs with your Boneshatter. Yep. 4 out of 10 bossing. It is a strike skill. It's not going to be great bossing. That being said, you can do everything. But it might be a little scuffed. 6 out of 10 gear farmability. Gonna need a good weapon. You're going to need suppression on all your gear. If you don't have a shield for the suppression, it might be a little bit harder to get. Cold Dot. 5 out of 10 damage. It's mediocre damage. It's Cold Dot. 7 out of 10 survivability. You'll have determination and grace, I believe, with ghost shrouds. So it's pretty good. So maybe I'd rate this even higher, actually, because you get a bunch of chill effect too. So you're really slowing these bosses down, and they'll be really slow, and that gives you a lot more time to dodge, and it will feel quite nice for the new bosses, especially if you're not comfortable with bossing. Cold Dot is good. You go elementalist for this. I guess you could go occultist too, but a lot of people are saying elementalist now, so I'd look into an elementalist build. I think, like, if you look on Pewee Ninja, I think, like, Otter does these builds. If you find someone with Otter in their name, elementalist Cold Dot. 5 out of 10 map clear. It is Cold Dot. I mean, it's whatever. It's, maybe you can use Wintertide or Creeping Frost or something to make it a little bit better, so you're not relying on Vortex. 7 out of 10 bossing. You'll really slow them. I already went over that. 9 out of 10 gear farmability. All the gear is pretty farmable. If you want even more damage, you're going to have to farm some clusters. Might be an issue. Earthshatter Berserker. Now, I haven't played this in a while, so I don't really know where it's at. That is my guess. 7 out of 10 damage is pretty good. You could probably rate that a little bit higher, I think, maybe. 6 out of 10 survivability. I know it's Berserker, but whatever. Probably won't take Carnage. I mean, you can, but... 5 out of 10 map clear. It's Earthshatter. It's not very good. You will leave some stragglers there. 7 out of 10 bossing. You do a pretty good amount of damage. You have Enduring Cry Out. You're crying a lot. You have Berserk, which will make you tankier when it's active, do 10 damage. 5 out of 10 gear farmability. Yeah, same thing with the suppression gear. No shield to really boost you up easily. You have to get pretty good roll suppression on all your gear. Yep. B tier. Spark Inquisitor / Creeping Frost Inquisitor. 5 out of 10 damage. So 5 out of 10 damage for Spark Inquisitor. I'm not too sure on Creeping Frost. Look up Jungrone's video if you're interested in that. This is these ratings are mainly for Spark Inquisitor. 5 out of 10 damage, so it's Spark, right? So a lot of your damage comes from bouncing the sparks off the walls. So on some bosses, you're going to do a lot of damage, particularly ones in like closed arenas. You'll do a lot of damage. Some bosses have really big arenas, like Searing Exarch. You might not do the best damage there, but it will still be clearable. It's still fine. The damage is still fine. 7 out of 10 survivability. You're an Inquisitor. You have Grace Determination, Tempest Shield. You got a ton of regen. You got your big energy shield pool. 7 and 10 map clear. You know, it's pretty good. You shield children around. You Spark. 4 to 10 bossing. Just because some bossing arenas are really bad for this build. And your Spark. Spark's not might bounce too many times. You know, it's really hit or miss. So still, you can clear all bosses. Maybe not sure how hard the Ubers are, so that might be an issue if you're in hardcore. 8 out of 10 gear farmability. It's all pretty easy. If you look at my guide, I only had like 30 hours of playtime on the character, and it was doing pretty good. I cleared some bosses on it. If you want a guide for that, I have a guide for it, and Garotha does as well. His is probably better than mine. I'd look at his, not mine. General's Cry Berserker. So 10 out of 10 damage, 4 out of 10 survivability. It's Berserker. I don't know how much, like, I don't know if you get Grace Determination on it. 5 out of 10 map clear. Although I think, okay, so 5 out of 10 map clear with Blade Flurry, but I think if you go Shield Crush, maybe swap to that for mapping, it would probably be better. Seven out of 10 bossing. You just spin around. Your General's Cry will do all the work. Really good damage. You just can't tank a ton. 4 out of 10 gear farmability. Same thing. Maybe you probably need clusters. Well, you don't need them, but they'd probably be nice. You're gonna need some good gear, like Paradoxica or something. You can get away with like a two-hander before then. Or if you want to use a Red Blade Banner version, you could do that, but I see not a lot of people doing that anymore. Probably because it's not farmable. But if you're in Trade League, you can go that route. But you do not need that. I think it is startable. Poison Concoction, Pathfinder. 5 out of 10 damage, 5 out of 10 survivability. 11 out of 10 map clear. Maybe I could rate the bossing a little higher. You know, I might actually move that into A tier. I did bump up some stuff on it a little bit. You can get like maybe 1.5 million damage on it, realistically, for bossing. But it is kind of a scuff bosser, so I wouldn't really recommend it, keeping in mind that the new content this league is bossing, so. But if you want a map, sure, it's a perfectly good build for that. Really easy to farm the gear, 10 out of 10 gear farmability. Yeah, I'd probably put this in A tier, actually. I have it underrated. Skelly mages. So, Skelly mages, 26 out of 50. Oh, I don't know why I read that on that one, but not any others. Anyways, 10 out of 10 damage. It's really good damage. 4 out of 10 survivability. I mean, it's just necro. But it's not like an insanely tanky necro. It's just, you basically have block. And I don't know if you're going to get suppression capped on this either. Because you're going to want to use like a unique chess piece with Fleshcrafter. I don't know. I don't like this build as a league starter. 5 out of 10 map clear. So the thing is, you could probably rate it higher, but here's the thing, right? League start list. At league start, you're going to be doing a lot of maps that are not your optimal maps. So this means you're going to do maps that have a lot of shit in them. Like, I can't think of an example, but maps with lots of walls or things your projectile is going to get stuck on, that's going to feel bad on this build. Before you get your map set up and you can just like chain strands or something or tolls. That will be an issue. Map clear feels lackluster to me early. I've played this build before. It's okay, but if you're doing like your unoptimal maps, it can feel pretty bad. If you're doing your optimal maps, probably like 7 out of 10 map clear. 7 out of 10 bossing. It's minion building, let your minions do work. It does good damage. But for like Searing Exarch, now a lot of people say just spam your skeletons on the balls. Well, I've found that doing Searing Exarch with minion builds is really difficult because your minions will accidentally run into balls because you're going to have specters up. I find it harder than just running with no minions and just doing the balls normally, but that's only that specific boss, so. 0 out of 10 gear farmability. You cannot farm the gear for this. You cannot target Fleshcrafter, though it is pretty common. You cannot target Dead Reckoning the Jewel. There's a few other uniques that are nice for it. You cannot target those. But if you're in Trade League, that's not a big deal. But if you are not going to have a ton of currency at the start, the Jewel will probably be really expensive. A lot of people are probably going to start this. Yeah. And you're going to have to play a different build for a while, maybe for the first day or two, maybe even 3 days. Really depends how much you play. You have to go like normal Skellies or Absolution, which is less than ideal if you want to start this. So I'd recommend not starting it and going something else. But if you don't mind playing a different build for a few days and then swapping to it, go ahead by all means. So Absolution Necro. This is what you would play before you go Skelly Mages. You go. It has 10 out of 10 damage, really good damage. Survivability I imagine would be about the same. Map clear. I'm not really sure. I know when it was released, the AI was really scuffed. I don't know if that's still the case. And they are melee minions, I believe, so they can be kind of scuffed for map clear. And it'd probably be like 4 out of 10. Still okay. 6 out of 10 bossing. Well, I don't know. That might be actually higher. Like, I've never played this build. I don't really know what's going on with it. Maybe it'd be on par better than Skelly Mages, because you really do a lot of damage. 7 out of 10 gear farmability. You can league start this one. Yeah, so I mean, I have not played all these builds, but that's my general understanding of these builds. Some of them can be flip-flopped, like Pathfinder I'd be putting in here. But yeah, so that is a league start list. It's not every build, but I think it's the list of probably the top best 15 builds or so. Subscribe, like, comment, all the YouTube garbage.